Well, I mean, and I'd imagine, Tom Pelissero here on the Rich Eisen Show, there's no protocol for when to restart play when somebody's been resuscitated on the field and taken off via ambulance. And so let's hit that part of the conversation, because that is definitely, despite Troy Vincent, the league executive who spoke via conference call last night, calling the notion that the league was insisting the players get back on the field within 5 minutes ridiculous. The broadcast at ESPN, our friend and colleague Joe Buck was mentioning multiple times that the league has said, there's a 5-minute warm up and we'll resume play. We saw Stephon Diggs gather the Bills, and it did seem like he was, delivering a speech to say, let's go out there. And, you saw Burrow warming up. But after a while, it was obvious that the players weren't into that idea. And then they go back to the locker room. Based on your reporting and conversations with agents who never really turned down a chance to criticize the league when given an opportunity, based on my experience, did any of them tell you that the players told them that the league insisted they get back on the field within 5 minutes of that happening? Did you hear anything like that, Tom?
My understanding was more nuanced than that. You have, in general, protocols for a warm-up period after an extended injury delay. Mm-hmm. And again, that's commonplace with even serious injuries. I mean, back in week 2, I was in Buffalo for the Monday night game. That was the night that there was the doubleheader, the Bills versus the Titans and the Eagles versus the Vikings, so half the country may not have been watching. But Dane Jackson, another Bills defensive back, actually 2 Bills defensive backs in that game, suffered neck injuries. The second one, ambulance was on the field. There was an extended delay. It was extraordinarily frightening. And in fact, last night I stumbled across a quote from Damar Hamlin about watching Dane Jackson and his brother being on the field and what that felt like. Yet 15 minutes later, 20 minutes later, whatever it was, the football continued. And the fans were cheering and the players were going after it and doing touchdown celebrations and everything else. Again, you become hardened to this idea that no matter what, the game is going to go on. Mm-hmm. So last night, I'm not surprised that whether it is various people in the command center, remember there's always a communication to the TV broadcast too. That's why you got the guy with the orange gloves on the field.
That's right.
They're all communicating, okay, what's going to take place here? Mm-hmm. What's being communicated in that moment, and again, I don't speak on behalf of the league here, Rich. This is just my understanding of course. How the situation would work.
Neither do I. We're just two guys who are talking about it.
Exactly. You're proceeding as if this is going to go like every other injury, right. Ever. Right. And you're becoming aware, though, that it's not. And at some point, too, remember this, and I know that, Troy Vincent referenced this on the call last night, that, he said he's never seen anything like it. And how do you resume play after you've seen such a traumatic event occur right in front of you in real time? And at some point, both mentally and physically, as well as emotionally, it does become dangerous to put players back on the field. We've had weather delays, we've had other things, and there's always that worry of guys, just cramping up and things like that. But then on top of that, our players put at a greater injury risk because their heads are not in the game, because they just witnessed one of their brothers die and come back to life and leave in an ambulance in front of them. All those things have to be taken into consideration. There are things in the policies and procedures within the NFL about making up games, continuing games. To my knowledge, there's no example of a game. This isn't baseball where you make it up, the next time you play,
right.
Play the last 7 innings and then play the second game. You can't do that. I'm not aware of any situation or any precedent for doing this. Then you put on top of that the fact that these are 2 teams that are certainly going to the playoffs. It impacts the number 1 seed in the AFC. They both have another game coming up now in 5 days. Football is clearly not the important thing, and
right.
That's where the league has not made any statements whatsoever. I would certainly ascertain that they're having logistical conversations about, depending what happens with Damar Hamlin, what do we do here? And the later we get into the week, the harder it is to believe that there's some solution where you're going to jam in the rest of this game and then keep the rest of the schedule on track. And those are all conversations that will continue as we hopefully, I think we're all hoping and praying that we get positive updates on Damar Hamlin here in the coming hours and days.